An invocation of things analogous. It's Sanctuary of Reality, my comic review series. Time now for Cerebus, issue 181, the 31st chapter of Mothers and Daughters. Siren punches Cerebus in the face with her bloody right slinged arm, grabs his hand with her other hand, and slams it down repeatedly, trying to get him to drop his sword. Cerebus grasps at her face as he struggles to get back up, eventually getting back up and smashing her down onto the ground, but she never lets up gripping his wrist as he attempts to get his sword aimed at her head. Siren swiftly kicks him and recovers and rises back up, her greater height used to her advantage to lift him up off his feet as she jerks his sword arm from side to side until he finally drops his sword. Siren pitches Cerebus head first into the papal throne stairs. Siren slowly makes her way to his sword, so Cerebus dashes to try to get to it first. Who will get there first? Suddenly, an image of the page turns into the artboard it was drawn on as we pull out to reveal Dave Sim sitting at his drawing board smoking a cigarette. Text appears as Victor Davis begins to talk to us directly through it. To properly frame himself in the mind's eye of his audience, Victor talked about Scheherazade and her 1001 Arabian Nights, and also the Sword of Damocles. This relates with the fact that he'd rather be dead than afraid, and tells this to someone that we're not privy to yet. Feeling he's not reaching us, he brings up Jeff Smith, not of Bone fame, but of the Frank Capra movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. In relation to this, Victor proceeds to conjure up a fictitious Senate that he attempts to filibuster, with himself in all the roles therein. The topic they address, autobiography, is, by its very nature, intrinsically false and nonsensical. Will this exchange be enough to grasp our attention? So get this, Victor Davis is Dave Sim. Dave's middle name is Victor and first name David, so you see how that works. He is him, but he isn't him. He's sort of like one level down from the real Dave Sim. Basically, Victor Reed from the last two issues was created as a fictional analogy of Dave Sim, and once his story was over and he was basically emptied out in terms of usage, Dave filled in this void with his own essence and essentially took over him with a changed name. This will become more apparent during Rick's story when Victor Davis actually appears on panel. He goes from drawing comics and being Cerebus' creator, as he is in these particular issues, to being just another Reed's author like Victor Reed was. So he's an echo of Dave, essentially. As he says, autobiographies are, in their nature, BS. This is one giant transcendental method to bridge Dave Sim with his fictional universe. It's going somewhere in terms of the narrative, but it's not going to become apparent until the next phone book of Minds. This stuff is a little bit of a tougher read than the Victor Reed stuff had been, because it's not as embellished. It's effectively autobiographical, and it's a bit dry, but it's an essential building block in what's to come. The Cerebus versus Siren battle is probably, for my money, the most well-choreographed, greatest fight scene in the history of comic books. None of it is padded. Every panel adds up to an intricate move. It's a brutal, drag-down brawl that runs at the most natural pace that you could possibly have in this particular medium. I know the length of the battle is probably a little daunting to most readers, especially since there's no dialogue and therefore it reads a bit quicker than a normal issue would. But I think in that regard, it has a greater impact to me as a result. I likened it to something like Dragon Ball Z taking like 10 episodes to do a single fight scene. Dave is able to do this because it's his series, and he's not trying to appease an editor or a corporate overlord or anybody just but himself and the reader ostensibly. Next time, Cerebus lends Siren an ear.